Hi, I hope you're having a great day. Welcome back to NikkoVenture. As a certified care worker here in Japan, I am asked a lot about things concerning caregiving. However, the most often asked question is caregiving in Japan difficult? In today's video, we'll try to answer that. And the answer is yes. Is working as a caregiver here in Japan difficult? Yes. Absolutely. I will not sugarcoat it. Working in a foreign land for foreign people will never be easy. You may get accustomed to this land's way of living, but that yearning for hearth and home, it will always be there. Caregiving here in Japan is difficult. There's no argument there. But the real question one should be asking, however, is how difficult caregiving in Japan is. There are a lot of factors that contribute to the difficulty of being a care worker here in this country. Today, we'll talk about 4 of those. Language barrier. This is fairly obvious. Japan is not known to be great at communicating in the English language. As a matter of fact, in the 2021 English Proficiency Index, Japan is included in the countries ranked as having low proficiency in the English language globally. Taking care of a human being regardless of age is fundamentally difficult. However, that difficulty increases tenfold or more if the person you're taking care of speaks a language you barely understand.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
The inability to communicate effectively not only hinders a person's ability to render quality service or care, but also limits that person's capability to function 100% as a member of the Japanese society. There will always be some instances, at your work or at my work, where you will be asked to do things either by your Japanese staff or your residents. Being unable to comprehend those instructions may result in mistakes and even accidents. Outside of work, you may be able to buy the stuff you need like food and clothing. However, life in this country is not always about that. There will be times where you will be required to go to the municipal or city hall and process some important documents written in Japanese. Given the difference in language, you would be hard-pressed to perform these arduous tasks. Eventually, you'll ask your company for assistance, but it's not as easy as you think. The fact is that not all companies in this country can assist a foreign staff when it comes to important document filings and the like once you're here in this country. The reasoning behind that is to promote independence, I think, or just they don't care at all. I don't know. It's for those reasons that the language barrier in this country makes being a care worker here in this country difficult. You need to communicate outside of work as much as at work. Don't get me wrong, you don't need to be highly proficient in the Japanese language to live here. Dude, I know several people who are not really good in the Japanese language per se, but have been living in this country for several years. For example, work experience. If you're a caregiver or a nurse back in your home country, working as a care worker here in Japan would be both a familiar and unique experience. On the other hand, if you've been working in the office for the majority of your career, working as a caregiver here would be a complete 360-degree shift. That's because here, you will be spending 95% of your 8-hour shift standing, walking, and even running. Only when you do your recording and during meal assistance, you would be given the opportunity to sit your ass down. If you're accustomed to a heavy and laborious job where you can feel your armpits become wet for the entirety of your shift, then you will find working as a caregiver here mildly amicable and less arduous. Your armpits and other pits on your body will still become wet, but you're used to it, right? However, if you're a person who makes a living sitting in front of a computer most of the time, good news! Here, you'll get a lot of exercise. Let's disregard the fact that you're a proficient Japanese speaker. We will not give a fuck about your JLPT level, because here, you will not only be speaking in Japanese, but you will also move and move and move and move and move even more in move normally. You will move a lot, but normally. Here, if you can't do your job efficiently, even if you're the smartest bastard in your class, you'll find this job extremely taxing. I am not trying to discourage you. Believe it or not, I'm trying to do the opposite. Being a care worker here calls for a balance between your ability to speak and comprehend Japanese and your fortitude to a physically and emotionally demanding, dirty job. Just like Thanos said.
Pretty, isn't it? Perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
If you've been an office staff for the entirety of your career and you have a good grasp in foreign language, then try to physically prepare yourself before actually coming here. If you're used to a laborious job, try not to be complacent. Steer those neurons a bit and make those kanji your daily bread. Cost of living. Yes, the salary of a caregiver here in Japan is much higher compared to the salary of a caregiver and sometimes even an entry-level nurse back in my home country. Yet, Japan is also at the higher end of the economic scale. That is, Japan has a higher cost of living compared to my home country. As a matter of fact, this country is one of the most expensive countries to live in according to the World Population Review done in 2021. Yes, the salary is huge, but the deductions in the forms of taxes and insurances is equally huge as well. The higher cost of living in this country would make you watch your expenses and become financially frugal. What's frugal? This is frugal. For context, the cheapest piece of bread I found was at 30 yen, excluding tax. That's around 14 Philippine pesos for a single piece of bread. Was it delicious? It's just a plain piece of baked flour for bread's sake. We Filipinos love rice. And the cheapest that I found here was at 1,200 yen, excluding tax. That's just a little over 500 pesos for just 5 kilograms of plain white rice, not cooked. The transportation fare here is also expensive. City bus fare, for instance, is 210 yen, which is just a little above 100 Philippine pesos. Trains are a bit tricky. The farther your destination, the higher the fare. Whether you work here in Asia or in the West, saving your money and limiting your expenses is easier said than done. Sometimes it will not always be about the needs. There will always be a time when it's about the wants. And balancing those equally important things while wiping someone else's ass will always be your daily routine here. Homesickness and boredom. When one thinks of Japan, these things may come to mind. However, your nursing facility, your workplace will never be situated near those areas, and more likely than not, your residence, your apartment as well. That's because when you work here in this country as a care worker, you will be provided with an apartment or a residence near your workplace. There's a distinct possibility that your workplace and your residence will be located in a Japanese suburb, a Japanese residential area. And believe me, or not, but believe me, Japanese suburbs are notoriously quiet and uneventful. With a dwindling population, streets in a typical Japanese neighborhood are mostly empty. Old residents are either at home or in a nursing home, while the younger population tends to congregate at urban centers. So the fact is that when you live and work here as a care worker, there's a distinct possibility, a huge possibility, you'll end up in a place like this. One of the reasons why migrant workers opt to go back to their home countries is because of that feeling of longing for one's home, or homesickness. Whether you're here in Japan, the United States, or in the Middle East, that feeling of longing for your home will always be there. Needless to say, however, if you're really dedicated in working in a foreign country despite the dullness and the homesickness, you'll need to actively seek out ways to fight that urge to go back home. You might want to establish friendly relations either with the natives or with your fellow foreign nationals, or you might want to travel other areas of Japan just to unwind. Anything will do as long as it helps in alleviating that sense of longing within you. Because if you don't do anything about it, that homesickness can turn into depression, and this is of grave concern. I've been in this country for almost 4 years and I've spent the majority of that time alone in a place like this. Having no experience working overseas and with mediocre Japanese, I really had a hard time overcoming that feeling of loneliness. As such, I always pondered about quitting and going back home. Fortunately, I've met some people along the way which gave me additional strength to resist that urge to quit. Now that I'm almost in my 4th year in this country, this homesickness, is still there. However, it's not as strong as it used to be a year ago. And one of the things I've learned in working as a care worker and living alone in this country is this. No matter how good you are in Japanese, no matter how hardworking and financially frugal you are, the one thing that can hinder you in achieving those dreams is homesickness. So reach out, find people you get along with, keep yourself busy, and find ways to channel those pent-up emotions into something creative. I know it's easier said than done, but remember, we came here for a reason. Remember that reason. Don't give up just yet. You've come this far. Have pride in that. You can go further. Have faith in that. So that's it. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, leave a like and leave a comment. And of course, share this video with a friend. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.